What's up everybody, Victor here, and it's time for a nation guide for Perm. Without further ado, let's just go ahead and get it started. Now before I get into the guide proper, I do want to spend a couple of moments here talking about a strategy that used to be fairly routine and it worked most of the time for Perm that just doesn't work anymore. Specifically the vassal strategy for Perm. The idea is that Muscovy starts off with 5 vassals. And it used to be that they can only integrate one at a time. The reason why is they were so far over their Diplo relations slots that they really couldn't afford to integrate more than one at a time. On top of that, they will usually focus on the smaller guys here before focusing on you. And then to top it off, whenever they integrated a subject, they had to spend 10 years of no diplomatic reputation before they could move on to the next guy. So the idea was, they'd integrate Rostov, usually first, and then Yaroslavl, then Belistero or Pskov, and then finally you. Meaning you had between 30 and 50 years where they weren't trying to integrate you. And during that time, you can take exploration and expansion and start colonizing your way through Siberia, building yourself up a power base, getting some gold mines underneath your belt, and building up an army capable of challenging them over that 50-year period. Also, they will end up making other people mad, such as the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, the Ottomans, or the Danish. The problem with that is that the game has substantially changed over the 2 years since that really worked. The two things that changed were both privileges. The first one being strong duchies, because now that they can take the strong duchies privilege, they don't lose that diplomatic power every month, meaning they can integrate 2 at a time. And that made it not quite reliable, but then they added the final privilege, which was the nobility integration policy, meaning they don't suffer the diplomatic reputation hit. Meaning instead of it taking 50 years, it can be just 10 for them to come after you because they're integrating multiple people, or you might have only 20 years, and you can't build up through colonization from nothing, being able to challenge Muscovy in that time. I've attempted this about 30 times in practice runs, and not one of them actually worked. As a result, I cannot recommend it. Now, the strategy I do recommend is pretty much pure RNG. You're going to have to be very, very fortunate for it to work. And what I mean by that is that in my total runs, I only saw this happening maybe 20% of the time at the most, probably closer to 10. So you're going to have to restart a lot or get lucky after the fact. I'll get into what those are. But I did want to address this old strategy because I see it everywhere and it just doesn't work. So if you're here because you're looking for one and you've seen it everywhere and it's not working, it's not just you. It just doesn't work anymore. With all of that being said, let's go on to what does work. And of course, the first thing we're going to talk about is the estates and privileges, because that's just what we do. Now, there's 2 privileges here that you really should be taking. The rest of it is kind of your call. Pretty standard start. First things first, patronage of the arts. You're going to be wanting to scornfully insult Muscovy, and you start off with negative prestige. So granting this will give you that prestige bump so you can insult them and get people on your side. Second, you have religious diplomats. This will also help you get Orthodox countries, there only being one of which that matters, and that's Novgorod here, to help support your independence as well. While they tend to get annihilated by Muscovy early on, that 13,000 for your favor is better than nothing. So for one privilege here, you might as well take it just because it makes it so much more consistent to work. But the last thing to keep in mind when it comes to estates and privileges, you will always be just shy of 5% if you grant all of the other privileges that I do. So if that's the case, you will want to dev something, but you should not do it yet, simply because since you are a vassal, it's 50% more expensive. So either do it now and just pay the extra cost, it's fine, or hold off. And the reason why you'll hold off is for the simple reason that you're going to declare an independence war and you can just dev then. But I'm just going to go ahead and do it now because it's not too bad. Now, with that being said, that's the estates and privileges, so let's move on to the military and then diplomacy. Your starting diplomacy is going to largely be determined by who ends up rivaling Muscovy at the beginning of the game. In my game, it's both Lithuania and Novgorod. Those are the 2 that are willing to rival Muscovy, and this is what you're aiming for. The reason why is because you need to have people support independence, not alliances. Alliances are far easier to get than a support independence. For example, if it wasn't Lithuania and Novgorod, but Denmark was on this list, and I went to ask them, they would tell me no. Just flat out no. And the reason why is because they don't believe they can even reach Muscovy in an independence war, because they would not have access through Novgorod. Meaning in order to get Denmark to help me, I have to let them first attack and destroy Novgorod, which means I'm losing somebody that will be willing to support my independence at the start, which is kind of a problem. Now, there's no guarantee that Novgorod will be willing to help you immediately at the start of the game. So if you're not able to get them at the start of the game, it's fine, because the first thing you're going to do is you're going to scornfully insult Muscovy. This will make the people that rival them like you a little bit better, and hopefully with the right privileges, you'll be able to get Novgorod at the very start of the game. The next person you're going to try and get in, hopefully, your starting game would be Lithuania. Obviously, they can fall under the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. If that happens, your best option is to allow Novgorod to fall and get someone else to rival Muscovy. And this can happen, but doesn't always happen. For instance, sometimes after Novgorod has fallen, they'll drop off as a viable rival for Denmark, meaning suddenly they'll pick up Muscovy, and then they might be willing to come in with their two personal unions, and it might be enough to allow you to get independence. Might. There's no guarantee. Also, what can happen is that Poland will decide the Teutonic Order is not strong enough for whatever reason, and then they will rival Muscovy after they get the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth started. So you do have options if you can't at the start of the game, but it's completely RNG dependent. So in this case, now that I have my diplomats done, let's talk about your military. Your military setup is pretty quick to do, however, it is also pretty in-depth as to why. See, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to hire 5 regular infantry into your army, and you're going to put a general in charge. Doesn't really matter if he's good, but if he is, much better. Then you're going to take out 2 loans, and you're going to hire the free company in whatever province does not have troops being built in. The reason why is, yes, this will absolutely put you over your force limit by a lot. You are going to be hemorrhaging money. A lot. The point is to get Lithuania on your side as quickly as possible, because they do not want to right now, in large part because your army is trash. It is just absolute trash. You need to improve relations with them, but the higher you get that army count, the faster you get that higher army count, the better off you're going to be. So just get it started now. Yes, you're going to be taking on loans. You'll be fine. You can delete them once they support your independence and declare. But with that being said, the military is now set up, so it is time to unpause. I will say, however, that if you're trying to get this done to get the achievement for Perm, you can exit out of the game at this point, load in the backup, so at least you save this starting condition, to try and get this to work without having to reload the game another 20 times, trying to get exactly Novgorod and Lithuania to be willing to back you up. But with that being said, let's unpause. Oh, I'm going to start converting too. And once I have a diplomat back, I need to start improving relations with these guys as soon as possible. I desperately need Lithuania to support my independence, because for whatever reason, Novgorod alone just isn't enough to take on somebody twice their size. I don't know why, but they really should, right? But as you can see, they're rapidly getting closer in line with what I need. With any luck, this will be only a couple more months. Not quite. Still, I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording because I need to get them on my side. I'll bring you guys back once it is time to declare against Muscovy. See you in a second. And welcome back, everybody. So Lithuania is now supporting my independence, but full disclosure, while waiting for them to be willing to support me, they did one time fall under the personal union of Poland, and I had to restart. This is why I recommend loading it up from the backup, just so you don't have to do that, because being able to load it back up and try and get more time with Lithuania backing you up, if not being independent, will definitely help save your bacon, and at least not waste as much of your time. So yes, I am taking 3 stability hit. I am absolutely taking the war exhaustion penalty. As you can see, my force limit did not really increase that much, meaning, yeah, I'm still going to be hemorrhaging money, but I would rather be hemorrhaging money than not being able to fight. So now that it has been declared, I'm going to sit back, stay in my own territory, and just try and defend my capital as much as I can. If they siege this province, I don't necessarily care. If they siege anything else, I don't necessarily care, but I cannot let them be on my capital, because that is the war goal. Keep them off of the capital. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording again, because I just need to let this play itself out, and with any luck, we'll be able to win handily. However, even if I just barely eke out an independence, that's all I'm really going for, because I can't really take anything in this war in terms of provinces, because if I do, Novgorod and Lithuania want some of it, and I don't want to give them any of it. So I will see you guys in a little bit. And welcome back, everybody. So the war is over in my victory. I am now independent. What ended up happening is that since Muscovy really wants Novgorodian land, they focus almost all of their effort on Novgorod. Some of their vassals will usually come over, and at the start of the war, they'll walk towards you. But as long as you walk away from them and burn your own land, they kind of just leave. They do. They just leave. And they go after Novgorod, because much better land for them to take there. So they focus on Novgorod, knock them out of the war, and then come back for you. During that time, Lithuania hopefully has sieged out Moscow, which is what they did here. So when they peace out Novgorod, which they did, and they took some land, that gives you just enough war score to peace out for your independence and nothing else. Again, you can't really take any land, because if you do, then Lithuania gets some, and you don't want to give them any land. And, well, you usually have enough problems on your own, and the money, you're not getting any of it, so there's really no point. So at this time, it's time to reduce your army size down, get under that force limit, start stabilizing yourself economically, and potentially start developing up your provinces, saving a little bit more monarch power, so you can get the Renaissance devved up here in Perm. You got some time before you attack Muscovy again. Now, Novgorod will usually do this. They usually really want your land, meaning they'll be willing to break their alliance. I already did so because I made them a rival, because I'm looking to get their land too. They are going to have a rough same truce timer as Muscovy will, but because Denmark and Lithuania have both rivaled Novgorod, I don't think Novgorod's going to be around that long anyway. And I'd rather get these two on my side than worry about Muscovy and trying to keep Novgorod alive, since they only have 3,000 troops. So Novgorod is on its way out no matter what. I'm just detaching myself from that sinking ship. So at this point, just consolidate your army, stabilize, dev up if you need to, get your war exhaustion and your stability under control, because otherwise you're about to have some really bad rebel times that you really don't want to be dealing with, and get ready. Try and get other allies if you need to fight Muscovy in the next war, and other than that, it's simply waiting. Now, Kazan will usually want your land, so they're not going to help you, but the Great Horde, they're not too bad. They're pretty easy to get on your side as long as they want some of Muscovy's land, and they usually do. So try and get as many people onto your side to basically all jump Muscovy at the same time. I'm going to be pausing the recording because I'm going to go and get that done and bring you guys back once it is done. See you in a second. And welcome back, everybody. So my truce with Muscovy is up. I just hit tech level 5, which should put me ahead of anything Muscovy has, though probably not by much. And I have both Lithuania and Denmark willing to come in. The Great Horde, while they want their land, apparently they don't really want their land enough. So they're out, but that's perfectly fine. We outnumber them about 2-1. If I was able to have Novgorod in this as well, perfect, but it's not that big of a deal. But in the middle of all this with Muscovy, I will likely be attacking them as well, because I'm already fighting their other allies, and I outnumber them alone, 2-1. So once I am certain that Muscovy is not getting back up off the mat, I'm taking this land from Novgorod. Absolutely. So I'm going to be doing this. Hopefully your game is going to go just as well, where you have such a massive outnumbering of Muscovy. If you do not, play defensively. If you do, great. Because realistically, you still have to play defensively until your allies can get near you, but by the time they do, you should be fine. So I'll see you guys a little bit, because it's easier for me to do this and make it not have to restart this if I'm not distracted while talking. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. And welcome back, everybody. So it is now time to go back in on Muscovy. I spent my time getting favors with the Danes and Lithuanians, got an alliance, so they're able to come in without promise of land. Now, while I do outnumber them at the start, they still have enough manpower to recruit a massive army, and they almost always will. They're really bad at attrition. However, they have enough recovery to largely not care as long as they're doing okay in fights. Now, this is a fight where you're going to be relying on your allies to not be incompetent. If you are not feeling secure in that, there are two things you can do. One, take exploration and expansion ideas and start backfilling Siberia using your colonies to grow in power so that you can challenge Muscovy, because you kind of have him contained at this point. Because if he goes in on Kazan, you guys can go in on him, distracting him and pulling him apart. If you don't want to be doing that, you don't want to take the time, or you just want to go with it and take a chance, but you want to have a backstop for that, exit the game and load it up as the backup save that will keep your main save there before you declare. So if for whatever reason, no matter how many times the AI just can't win, you can go to the backfill option, because this is a coin flip, because the Danish AI really sucks about fighting in Russia. They just do. With any luck, your game, you'll have Novgorod not want to break the alliance with you and not be totally destroyed. And you can keep them as an ally, because usually they'll have about 20,000, and they're really good about fighting Muscovy. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and declare, because worst case scenario, I'll just have to redo it all over again. But I'm going to pause the recording. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Welcome back, everybody. That was a brutal, brutal fight. What happened is that Muscovy and their allies focused on Lithuania, pushed them to about there, fully occupied in this box here, and then just left to go siege me out for whatever reason. While the Danish and the Lithuanians focused on the Livonian Order, once I pieced them out, which was as quickly as possible, the Danes just kind of left for a bit, and then came back after I was fully occupied to unsiege me, while I left my troops on Moscow, and then the Muscovites kept walking past me. While I was on their capital, outnumbering me about 2-1, they just kept walking past. And kept walking past, until eventually I sieged down their capital. Then they attacked me, so I ran back to my land, and then unsieged my own capital, and the Norwegians came along at some point and got this for me, which was the war goal. Which means I have just enough to take this state, including this fort down here, so I don't have to deal with that in the next fight. I got very, 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 very lucky. Now, the good news is that, well, my loan amount should be going up relatively soon. Hopefully I won't go bankrupt, because that would be very bad. But I'm going to drop everything I have to hopefully stave that off. So I'm going to go ahead and try and stabilize now, because I need to, and recover myself financially, get everything cored up, and get ready for the final going in on against Muscovy, because at this point they should be largely broken. They really shouldn't have the ability to stand up against you, let alone your allies in the next fight. I didn't have the ability to go after Novgorod, but I will eventually go after them once I can deal with Lithuania not be going in. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. And welcome back, everybody. So it's time to go in on Muscovy yet again. However, as you can see from the map, some things have certainly changed in the interim. I did go in on Kazan because one of their allies, Crimea, was distracted, and Uzbek is pretty easy to knock out of the war. You just got to get over here to their capital and stand on it. That's about it, and they should peace out fairly quickly. If you are allied to either the Great Horde or Nogai, and they are in the war with you, they will share maps, allowing you to see all of this so you're not having to bust any fog, making it happen a lot quicker than you might otherwise imagine. Now, I did take their capital, these two provinces, my core here, and these two that I've released into a vassal. As you can see, he is super disloyal because I enforced my religion on him. There's a reason why I did this. You see, I want this land directly for myself, but they're both Sunni provinces and they're Bashkir culture, which there is not enough development in these provinces together for me to embrace that culture and then be able to convert them anytime soon. So by doing this, I am now able to convert this guy's provinces. It will actually progress. Yes, it will take a long time, but that's fine. And as far as him being disloyal, that's actually fine too. You see, while he is disloyal, I am able to break the vassalization once this truce is expired. This matters because suddenly he will be an Orthodox country, surrounded by Sunni countries, with only one other Orthodox nation anywhere close to him that can protect him, and he cannot protect himself. On top of that, since you're breaking a vassalization when they're super disloyal, they have an extremely high opinion of you when they break. Meaning, they're going to have about 150 opinion of you, really want to ally you, and then on top of that, will be small enough to accept a vassalization again. And when you revassalize them, they won't have the liberty desire from enforced religion. So you've enforced their religion, converted their provinces, and then gotten them back, and they don't care. They're perfectly content with all of it. It's a weird thing to witness, but I will show you once I get through the video. But for right now, I just wanted to explain it. So at this point, I'm going to start converting this province, because really, this is the only one I care about. This one I can take my time with. And I'm going to get ready to take on Muscovy. So I'm still going to be hiring mercenaries, because even though it seems like it's going to be in my favor, again, I don't trust the AI not to be dumb. I really don't. So instead, I'm going to make certain of it by having enough forces on my side to at least equal Muscovy, because I outnumber them in manpower, and I can even go in and take some quantity ideas to give myself an advantage in terms of manpower in the meantime, but I shouldn't necessarily need it. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. I will bring you guys back when it is done, and by the way, you do have a slight mission tree here, so if you want to and you have the money at this point, though I don't, take this mission and get it done, building a fort. It'll give you claims on the Muscovy area, so you don't have to keep fabricating claims like I do. It's not important, but it does help. So I'm going to see you guys in a little bit. And welcome back, everybody. As you can see, Muscovy had a really rough time of it. At this point, their standing army is smaller than mine, and I don't even have them being fully reinforced at this point. Meaning, I shouldn't need anyone else to help me deal with them. Now, of course, I'm still going to call in Denmark and Lithuania because it'll make it so much easier to not have to siege things myself. But of course, that doesn't mean I absolutely need it. So Muscovy, after this point, shouldn't be a problem. Bashkiria over here, they are a different beast. Now, they are still disloyal, but not nearly as much as they were. I have converted the gold mine province, but not the steppe one yet, but that's fine. The reason why is I can make them loyal at this point, and you should be able to as well. Now again, you might not want to or have to at this point, and you can just reset their liberty desire and the time it takes to annex them by breaking the vassalization. Be aware that they may not be willing to accept a new vassalization, considering the fact that your economy, which is going to be based off of the amount of development you have modified by autonomy compared to theirs, which means you need to make certain you have low autonomy over all of your land. Because while they don't exactly have a whole lot of development, if you have a lot that's 70-80% autonomy, it's not counting for much. So make certain you have low autonomy when you do it, otherwise they won't accept a new vassalization and you're waiting even longer. But the other way of doing it is simply, once this is converted to Orthodox, start deving it up. It's a gold mine. You're going to do this anyway. Once that's done, look, they're loyal again. You're getting them to convert it for you without any real difficulty. You're getting it as a converted province with no unrest. And on top of that, no real autonomy will be there by the time you're done. Meaning, you have all that gold coming in, fixing all economic problems for a huge chunk of the game. Now, your future expansion's pretty simple. Because I'm not going to keep playing this, because at this point, you'll largely have seen everything you need to see. In this province right here, there is a core for Siberia, which, as you can see here, has a lot of cores you can reconquer. You need to get these as quickly as you can, because they will be lost at the end of this century. So 1494 is when you have to go for them. So if you can get this before now, fantastic. If you can't, it kind of is what it is. You'll lose it on a couple of these provinces that are not Siberian culture. However, it's not that bad. You can just take them because they're not exactly high development anyway, and give them to Siberia. And then you keep expanding and snaking your way, especially if you're going for the achievement as Perm, to the end of Siberia into the end of Manchuria. The reason why is because then you can slowly backfill everything with a colonist. You cannot form Russia. So you will have to go expansion and probably exploration to get it done that way. The rest of it is take over Scandinavia, which you'll do fairly easily. Once you conquer this land from the Danish, Then you just come in here, you take Finland, you take Norway, because Denmark is going to eat Norway, and then you release Norway back into the world, including Iceland, you release Finland into the world, you conquer Denmark, you conquer Sweden. And at that point, you're spanning into Canada. So I'm going to go ahead and load up another one of my save games because it'll let me show you a bit more without being constrained by the map. See you in a second. And welcome to the 1650s, everybody. So I'm only going to talk about a couple of things here because this guide is long enough, and Perm has become my newest permanent nightmare, and I just want it to end. Now, I did expand all the way from coast to coast, and I did use the cores, as I said before, of Siberia, Oirats, then Mongolia. If these countries still exist in your game, just conquer it directly. It doesn't really matter that much. And I did take Kazakh down here and integrate them as well. The reason why is Samarkand down here is a trade node that feeds the Ottomans, and any money that I can keep out of Ottoman hands is something I want to be doing. So because they're largely not going to get anywhere near this area for a while, it was a safe place for me to take just to annoy them. Now that that's been said and done, let's talk about Siberia. Now, I do recommend taking exploration and expansion long before I did. The reason why is these uncolonized provinces are very useful for you. First off, they're trade nodes that can feed into your home node, which is a very nice thing to have, and will increase your economy by quite a bit. Second off, there's a lot of gold up here. On average, in all of my games, I think I've estimated between 3 and 5 gold mines. Every game I've played as Russia, or now Perm, or China, or Korea, or whoever it was that colonized Siberia, I tended to find a lot of gold there, allowing me to drastically ramp up my economy far beyond what I had before. And you're going to be trade companying all of this, giving you even more merchants to give you even more money, and having more dominance in that field, allowing you to build up a lot more manufactories for even more money, or manpower buildings, or force limit buildings, all across Siberia. So you'll be able to have economy and manpower and everything you need from these low development provinces out here, even without developing any of them. You'll be amazed how quickly you can really ramp up using Siberia. So I recommend colonizing them as soon as you can. As far as the New World is concerned, if you can move your capital there, great. It's not going to help you. The reason why is you will eventually have to fight people in Europe because Greenland is in the Canadian region and you need to take it as well, but it does not flip to a colonial nation. So in my game, I have to fight France no matter what I do. So given that fact, it doesn't really matter if I move my capital to the colonial region, I'll still have to fight over here. And as long as I finish the exploration idea, I can make the war goal in the New World, and I can outnumber people in the New World. Here's the thing. The people that colonize the New World over here are the Western Europeans, generally within this box. Meaning, as long as you have Poland or the Lithuanians or whoever it is that controls a large swath of this terrain over here as friendly, they won't give them military access to attack you. Because Poland is my ally, Poland will give nobody military access through their land. And since all of them hate the Ottomans, they won't ask the Ottomans for access through their land. So I just need to maintain enough naval dominance in the Baltic Sea and the North Sea up here, and they won't invade me. Meaning my homeland is completely safe. I just need to win over here. And eventually I'll take the war goal, get ticking war score, and be able to peace out and take a giant chunk out of Canada, because the Castilians and Aragonese, which in my game, the Aragonese forced a personal union onto Castile, which was absolutely hysterical. But they won't be able to reach me. And even if they do, I can just keep enough troops on my coastline to push them back into the sea. As long as I accomplish that, it doesn't matter. I'll be able to take it. So don't worry too much about getting the New World. As far as the Swedes are concerned, they are a very dangerous person to fight late game because they generally will outscale you in terms of quality. And given the new patches that are coming out, where they're going to be changing it, since Paradox is a Swedish company, I have a feeling Sweden's going to get even more overpowered. So be aware, fighting Sweden late game or even mid game, independent when they've been expanding, is really frustrating. I just finished a war with them to gain 2 provinces, and it cost me 120,000 manpower. Because they kept winning all the fights, I just eventually wore them down. Not fun. Instead, the easiest way to take them out is while they are under Denmark and disloyal, occupy Denmark and then siege down the Swedish capital or their forts in the area. Because then, instead of taking Danish land, you can take Swedish land. The Swedish, since they're disloyal, won't actually fight you. Not unless you want to fight them, which you don't. Once you siege them out, you simply take all their land, they become a minor power with 10,000 troops running around, and then who cares? Then you take whatever you want. But just focus down Sweden first. In this game, I helped them gain their independence, then they sent me as a rival, and after that, they've been a thorn in my side ever since. So if you want to make it easier on yourself, just do that. Now we come to the final boss, the Ottomans, who's the final boss in pretty much every game in the EU4. The Ottomans massively outnumber me. I mean massively. On top of that, they own land that I want, and they think all of my land is vital interest land. Here's the thing. I took myself to the basically 1650s in 8 games. Just to make sure all of this worked every time, that there's not a surprise that's coming or an event or anything like that. Just because I wanted to make certain that I knew what I was talking about in different ways to fix these problems. The Ottomans, while they say they want my land, will not fabricate a claim. They will not attack me. They might attack my allies, but they will not attack me. The reason why is because I am in the Russian and Ural regions. And the AI, for the Ottomans, does not want to attack into the Russian or Ural regions. The reason why is simple. There's no trade coming from there. If you look at the trade nodes, everything in those regions flows away from them. It might come from them, but it usually comes from other places, but nothing goes to them. On top of that, it's all the wrong religion, it's all the wrong culture, there's nothing there to really gain from, and a lot of it's low development. They don't want to be spending their time fighting me in Russia when they could be fighting the Habsburgs, or the Italians, or the Timurids, or the Ethiopians, or the Tunisians, because that's land they can actually use. Either it's land in the right religion, it's down in the right area with gold mines, which can actually send them more money, it can send them more money in trade, or it's just further along the trade path, giving them more money because there's more people they can collect from. Because more money's flowing that way out of Constantinople because of the Austrians. So it makes sense for the AI to focus there because it's programmed to. Up here, not really. There's nothing to benefit for it. So it ignores you up there. I will say, right here, these 2 provinces are in Russia. They are owned by the Ottomans because I didn't attack the Great Horde fast enough, and eventually they just fall annex their Great Horde. So just make certain there's no provinces of the Great Horde, Kazan, Nogai, in the Ural region or in the Russian region, and they should leave you alone because they'll focus on Pontic Steppe, Ruthenia, Poland, South Germany, Carpathia, Balkans. They don't want to push up here. They may hate you. They may want to stop you from expanding, but they don't actually want your land. So use that to your advantage. The last thing I want to talk about is the monument in Neva, St. Petersburg, the Winter Palace. For those of you who have not seen this monument or understand what it does, it gives you institution growth. This is a yearly thing that it's counting, so this +6 is divided over the year, so it's giving me 0.5 every month. Now, this is actually modified by the size of the province. Since I'm at 38 development, I'm getting 93% increase to the spread of the institution. And of course, I do have the institution spread edict on to just help get it to that point, because it wouldn't be there naturally. But basically, just because of this monument, I'm getting almost 1 per month, meaning I'm able to get an institution in, I believe, 8 years, which is less than the amount of time it takes for a tech. Tech comes every 13 years, which means I should never be behind in institutions, because if I do all of this land over here as trade company, it doesn't count. If I don't actually dev push anything other than this 1 province, or 1 more over here to get Renaissance, it shouldn't be that difficult for me to be able to get it high enough in terms of provinces that have the institution to just embrace it and not have to wait, or to allow it to naturally spread without any problems. And it goes from 3, so you get 0.25 every month, to 0.5, to eventually 1 every month from getting it to the 3rd level without even deving anything here up, which we can double it to making it so you get the institution in 5 years. Just letting it naturally grow. And just to prove it, there's no manufactory here, and on top of that, there's no manufactory being embraced anywhere near it. So I just need to sit and wait. All these other countries have it, because they built manufactories. I haven't had the money, but I still can get the institution really, really quickly, and I don't have to worry. It's just gonna be there. So get to this monument as quickly as you can. In my test games, I've been able to get to it by approximately colonialism and used it to get colonialism maybe a quarter of the time. Because once I realized how strong it was, I absolutely aimed for it. And if you can aim for it, absolutely do the same, because this will absolutely save you, because then you don't have to dev push anything. You can just dev up what you want to dev up, getting it to the right amount for both manpower, trade, tax, whatever you feel like doing, though I do recommend that just the manpower and trade, and build yourself up an actually strong country without wasting manpower that you're going to desperately need for the achievement. But with that being said, you should be able to get all of Scandinavia without any difficulty. You should be able to push over here to the coast, and you should be absolutely able to take out the New World, because honestly, if they can't reach you, and the only place they can fight you in reality is here in the New World, and you're prepared for that, there's really nothing they should be able to do, because you should be able to dominate these colonial regions pretty effectively. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I will definitely be making more nation guides. If you want to see another kind of content, if you want to see a specific nation be covered, or if you want to see me cover a specific mechanic in the game, let me know in a comment below, or join me on Discord. I'm always looking for new things to cover, so just let me know what you guys want to see. I'll be more than happy to do it. But with all of that being said, thank you all for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day.